Hi everyone, it's Liam here from Rating the Races. So let's have a look at last week's Eyecatchers. I'm also going to talk about one horse that runs tomorrow that I'm really looking forward to seeing run again. I thought the way she won her debut last time out was very, very impressive. Probably one of the most impressive debuts I've seen this season. But anyway, let's start off with our horses that caught my eye. And the first horse was Lahab, who ran at Newbury on Saturday in a maiden or a novice stakes. Let's just have a quick look. In a novice stakes and was beaten by Hectic and Eyecatchers. Now both of those were really well fancied. They went off 100 to 30 and 4 to 1, and they both ran, obviously the winner went lowest in running, whilst Eyecatchers also traded short in running. Now I was really impressed with Lahab in third, because he was slowly away, but then he was a bit keen, and I think it was Holly Doyle that was riding. She tried to just slow him down when he was keen, and she ended up being in last. She was last of the 10 runners, and wasn't getting any help from Lahab, who was clearly far too keen early. Then when the race started to hot up, Hectic was at the front, Eyecatchers just behind. It started to get going. Both of those had clear runs, and Lahab didn't. Lahab ran into the back of Eyecatchers when initially starting to make a move. Then Holly switched. She switched to her right. She asked Lahab maybe once or twice with a couple of shakes of the reins, and that was it. And he ran on really impressively into third. I think if he'd been asked for more of an effort, he would have been really closing on the front two at the finish. And if he'd got a clear run, I think he would have gone very, very close to winning this. I was, really taken by this performance for a horse beaten in a novice stakes. I think it will be a good race, and I think Eyecatchers probably comes out and wins next time. I think Hectic is above average, but I think Lahab could end up being the best of these with that run, and just getting a clear run next time. So Lahab is one that I'd recommend adding to your Nagmies. The next horse came in the 5 furlong, the super sprint, and it was Dare to Hope. Now, he's a little bit of an unknown because he's finished so far back in the end. He's finished 12th. But if you watch his race, he's caught on the right-hand side of the screen, or the near side, behind a wall of horses, and he stayed there the whole time. He could never get out from behind that wall. And he's finished having not had a race at all. He eventually, when he did get out with like 100 yards to go, he has come alongside those that were just in front of him. And I think he would have gone a lot closer if he'd got a clear run. Now, I'm not suggesting he would have won the race. He would have definitely finished a lot closer. And it could be interesting seeing where they go with him in terms of, now that he's got a handicap mark, just to find out, if you see him in a low-class handicap or a lower-class handicap, I think he could be very, very interesting, Dare to Hope. As I said, I don't think he would have won that race, but I think he would have probably finished like in the top 5 or 6. The top 5 or 6 from that race would be better than handicappers generally going forward. So Dare to Hope is one that I think you should add to your Nagmies. The next horse is La Dom Mania. That one. It finished second in the summer plate at Market Raisin, and for me, I thought he was very unlucky. Or she was very unlucky, sorry. And the reason for that, she's just ended up in front too soon. She's travelled so well under John Joe O'Neill, that she's ended up getting to the front before they've even turned in. She's in front so early that she's essentially become, the target for a lot of horses. But none of them were able to catch her, apart from Frankie de Burle, who'd won the race last year, clearly been targeted it again, went off the favourite, and just about ran her down. I think if John Joe had been able to have something take her further, I think La Dom Aniala would have won that race if she had just had, a slightly delayed her challenge, just very slightly. I think because of that, she can certainly win a similar race. And obviously she's not going to go up as much in the handicap as had she won. I think she's still clearly very unexposed, and and she's worth giving another chance to. If you backed her to win and you were unlucky here, I do think she will go close next time, even off her new revised mark. We then move on to Just Hubert. Now, I picked Just Hubert on this day at Beverley, and I was really pleased. I got a decent price. I think I got about 11s. Got absolutely smashed up, really well backed. Then there was a non-runner. Thought I had a great chance. Went off 2-1. And Just Hubert lost that race for himself just as they went onto the second circuit. He pulled himself up pretty much. He had a nice-ish lead. He was going okay, and then he stopped running, and it was really frustrating. Danny Tuttope tried. He pushed him along. He gave him a few smacks, and eventually he consented to run again. But he'd lost the race by then. The race was up. He then didn't finish that far behind the front two, taking all of that into account. And because of that, I think he's now down to a mark that he can certainly win off. I think if he just wants to go out next time, maybe find one that the stables are not near the as they go out onto the second circuit, find a course that he will, run well at. Could be Goodwood. There could be a race at Goodwood coming up. He's definitely one that is off a nice mark now. It could also be back to Ascot for the Shergar Cup, where I'd be keen on Just Hubert in any of those types of races. He just needs, he just needed to go out on that second circuit. Just think of the amount of ground he lost from going really well to suddenly stopping, the jockey riding along and getting no response out of him initially. And he was then passed by other runners. Take all of that out and think of how far he's been beaten by. He wasn't beaten far. I really think he would have won that race at Beverley. But hopefully he can end up in something like the Shergar Cup race. And I think he will run a really big race. You can see here at Goodwood, he clearly has had this issue before. He refused to race here. So he does have that quirk about him. So let's go to a track that we know he'll definitely go out on. Probably Ascot is the one they might target. Moving on to a race at Leicester. And the horse that goes into my Eyecatchers here, or into my Nagme here, was Majestic Fighter. Purely because Majestic Fighter and another horse in the race, they got racing far too early. Before they'd even turned in, they were starting to quicken up, starting to get racing, and Majestic Fighter fought off that other horse and then got picked up by Hatfield and Shaladar. I don't think they were better than Majestic Fighter. I purely think that the Majestic Fighter's just stopped in front because he's done so much work so early. I think if James had delayed his challenge, had not panicked and gone after that horse in front, I think Majestic Fighter would have been a nice winner here. Because he's finished third, his handicap mark is okay for next time, and I think he'll go very close in a similar race. The next horse I want to talk about is a horse called Classic. Very interesting name for a horse. If you want to name a horse with such a big name like that, they need to be pretty smart, and I think Classic could be. As you can see, looking at the result, he finished fourth, and all of the front three had had experience. They'd all had runs. Classic had not, and yet he still ran a really good race under Pat Dobbs. He didn't get the clearest of runs. He wasn't given a hard race, and yet he closed really well at the finish. In a race that I think will work out quite well as it is. And I think Classic could be very, very interesting. I think he'll end up in better races. A similar race like this next time will be fine. I imagine that they can try and get a win into him and then go from there. But Classic is a horse that was beaten in a maiden or in a novice stakes that I think is worth adding to your Nagme. 2 to go. The penultimate one. Now, I don't normally put horses in like this, although the horse that runs tomorrow is going to be of a similar ilk. Batao Dubai. Very, very impressive as a winner. I don't like putting winners in Nagmes. They won. Everyone saw it. But here I actually think this was a more impressive performance than he got credit for. I thought Supreme King ran a really, really good race for Richard Hannon. Went off the 5-2 favourite, Supreme King. Did everything right. They obviously fancied him. as a newcomer. They thought he was good, and I think he is good. But I think he's been beaten by a very, very good horse here in Batal Dubai. And that's why I think Batal Dubai is worth adding to your Nagmi. The way he quickened over that far side when asked for an effort was very impressive. And he ran away from Supreme King at the finish, with Supreme King putting daylight between him and the rest of the field. I think if you took Batal Dubai out, people would be saying Supreme King, very, very impressive winner. Batal Dubai beat Supreme King just as comfortably as Supreme King beat the others. I think this was a good race. I think those front two are above average, and I think the winner was very, very good here. So, as I said, I don't like putting winners in your Nagmi, really, because everyone saw it. It won. Like, if it turns up to the next race, it's got form of one. Or it's going to go off just a shorter price because people that don't actually look into the races, they see a one next to it and go, well, that won last time. That's clearly the best horse. So even then, it's going to be a shorter price than it should be. But he still might not be as shorter price as he really should be, because I think this was a very, very good performance. And the final horse I want to talk about is Pureness. I highlighted Pureness after she finished 5th at Newmarket. She finished 5th at Newmarket recently. In between that, she finished 2nd on her second start at Carlisle, beaten by a very good newcomer. Now, at Newmarket last time, I don't think she was there to win. Having already had 2 runs and she'd been beaten twice, the third run, the obvious one, is you go for a handicap mark. She's got one, 77. That's not high enough for her. She can definitely win off 77. So Pureness, if you haven't already got Nagmi for Pureness, I recommend putting Pureness in your Nagmi with the aim at being next time out in a handicap. As soon as she runs in a nursery somewhere, I'd be very, very keen on her off 77. And the final horse I want to talk about tomorrow, I thought this was one of the most impressive debut efforts I've seen. That was Maui Wowie. The ground is a little bit different tomorrow, so that will be a new test for her. But if she's as good as I thought she was, I think she can overcome that. I think she will be the best of these at Nace. I think she could be very, very classy. So we'll find out how good my 2-year-old novice form study is. How good am I at spotting those horses that, wow, that was a super impressive debut effort. That could give us an idea as to whether I'm right with Batal Dubai or whether I'm way off the mark. So let's keep an eye on Maui Wowie tomorrow. Hopefully she can go and do the business at Nace on her second start for J Lyons, and I imagine it's Colin Keane. It is Colin Keane. And I think she's a group horse running an illicit race on her second start, which is understandable. So there's some thoughts for the last week or so. A few horses to add to your Nagmi, potentially, if you like them. And one talking about tomorrow. Thanks for listening. I'm now getting out of this room because when I record the video, I can't have my fan on, and it is absolutely sweltering. My computer says it's 36, so I need to get out and go get a drink. Thanks for listening, and as always, send me your feedback about these videos. I do appreciate the feedback. Let me know what you think. Let me know if you like any of these horses, if there's any that you completely disagree with, or if you think I missed any. Who was your eye catcher of the week, or who was your most impressive winner of the week? Let me know. Love hearing what you think, and always happy to have a discussion on Twitter about any of your horses. Thank you.